Amazing to see so many people in person in one place. Great to have you all here. Welcome to Inner City Law Center's 22nd Annual Awards Luncheon. The last time we gathered here in person was May of 2019. It's great to see many friendly faces and new faces as well with us today. I also want to give a shout out to everybody watching us online in the cloud on YouTube. Welcome to you as well. We gather here today to celebrate the miraculous work that happens at Inner City Law Center and to honor a couple of remarkable individuals and a remarkable law firm for their incredible efforts. We are pleased today to be presenting our 2022 Humanitarian Award to Alia and Dr. Gary Michelson. We honor them today for their incredible philanthropic efforts, and in particular, their efforts that focus on and benefit the same clients and communities that Inner City Law Center focuses on serving. We're also here today to honor with our Katherine Krause Award our longtime pro bono partners at Alston & Bird. Alston & Bird, you can give them some applause. Alston & Bird has been a longtime pro bono partner of Inner City Law Center, going back over a decade and doing work, again, with our clients directly. In our 1 hour here today, we will bring you up to date on the changes in the organization over the last few years, and in particular, on the growth in the organization over the last few years. We will share stories of our clients, and in particular, how your support of Inner City Law Center makes a difference in the lives of our clients and in the housing stability that our clients struggle with, and hopefully at the end of our representation are in a much better place with respect to. Because this is a fundraising event, of course, we will also be raising some money here today, some additional money. And before we get to all of that, there's a number of folks who I need to thank for all that they do, both to put on this event and more generally for Inner City Law Center. So I'd like to start, if I can, with our incredible board of directors and board of advisors. If you're here and on either of those boards, if you would please rise so that we can give you a round of applause. Thank you for all that you do, both to set the strategic direction for Inner City Law Center and then also to support our carrying out of that mission. I also want to take a moment to thank the incredible awards committee that we had this year. Great group of folks. If you could please rise so that we can thank you as well. Events like this, as I'm sure you all know, don't just happen on their own. And so we have 3 staff members in particular who I'd like to give a shout out to for their really stellar work in putting together today's lunch. And they're all on our development team: Kim Peach, Vicky Battaglia, and Vanessa Castrita. Now, our luncheon committee was chaired this year by Eric Herzog and Pam Palmer, and Eric, unfortunately, could not join us. He's joining us online, but he could not come in person because of COVID, so we're wishing him a quick recovery. But we are lucky in that another committee member, Kim Boris, has agreed to step in for Eric. So I'm going to ask Kim and Pam to come up to the stage, and while they are doing that, we're going to start where everything always starts for Inner City Law Center, which is with our clients.
I had a really hard tour in Afghanistan, and I was a triage officer, which meant we see a lot of casualties, we see a lot of death. I joined the Army in October of 1986. So here I was, a brand new nurse and a brand new officer, and in charge of a ward, in charge of people. I was hyper-focused on everybody else except myself. And it was good for me because then I didn't have to address what was really going on with me. My symptoms started to appear once I retired. I was a trauma ICU nurse at Palomar Medical Center in San Diego. I started reacting to some of the traumas that would come in, and I'd get flashbacks. I started taking prescription drugs for anxiety and for sleep. And then when those didn't work, I started drinking on top of that.
The first time I met Debbie, despite the fact that she was experiencing homelessness and she, was in crippling pain and had all of these symptoms of PTSD, despite the fact that she had been denied so many times and the doctors had, told her that there was nothing wrong with her and that she was perfectly fine, she still had an unwavering belief that she knew something was wrong and she just needed the help to prove that there was something going on.
I felt a lot of support through Mary and the staff at Inner City Law.
Working with clients like Debbie is important to me because my father served in the Army and he also served in the Gulf War. And when he returned home, he suffered with all of these crippling symptoms of Gulf War illness. And he spent his entire life attempting to get the VA to acknowledge his disabilities. And unfortunately, in 2014, he died before he was able to get any type of benefits. When you have someone out there advocating for you who knows the law, that makes all the difference.
On top of my combat PTSD, losing my nursing license was, that's one of the big losses of my whole life. I was really blessed to have Mary step in and come alongside of me and help me with my case because, when you're the person suffering, it's hard to be very focused.
Can you hear me?
Seeing a client just,
We're not done yet.
completely know that their life is going to turn around and that it's not just about the money, it's about having that money so that you can provide for yourself, so that you can gain some stability. That's what makes it all worth it. It's just an amazing feeling when you win one of these cases.
It's really made a huge, huge difference in my life. And I am so grateful, Mary, and so grateful to Inner City Law.
We'll start over. Hello, everyone. I'm Pam Palmer. I'm one of the co-chairs of today's 2022 Luncheon. I am so honored to be here, so happy to be here. My first real live and in-person event. Thank you for coming.
And I'm Kim Boris. I'm also pleased to be with you here today, and I'm here to assume Eric's glory as co-chair.
We want to thank our generous sponsors. The full list of sponsors is in that nice, thick tribute book that we're proud to have on the table.
Well, the success of today's event really comes down to each of you, so we're glad that you're here. But we do want to give special thanks to our advocate-level sponsor, Judicate West.
And I'm going to give a shout out to our champion-level sponsors as well, Alston and Bird Morella, Houston Hennigan, Latham and Watkins, the Michelson Philanthropies, and Munger, Tolles and Olson.
We are happy to announce that as earlier this morning, we've already raised $700,000 towards our goal of $800,000.
So, to hit our goal, we actually need to raise another $100,000 today. That sounds like a lot, but we have a plan to get there.
And to help us to do so, we have a munificent matching gift challenge from Bob and Eileen O'Leary. If we raise another $50,000, the O'Learys will also contribute $50,000.
So, thank you to the O'Learys. That will bring us to a grand total of $800,000. So,
and that's not all. That's not all. To kick us off, we've received a $10,000 contribution from the David Geffen Foundation, which leaves us with only $40,000 to raise at this luncheon?
See, you're already down 10 grand. This is easy. So here's how we get there. What we're asking you to do is pick up your cell phones. Usually, you're not supposed to read your cell phones at an event like this, but we'd like you to pull them out and help us reach our goal if you can. You can do this by sending a text message to 41444. And in the message say, all caps, ICLC, $, an amount, anything you feel comfortable with, and your name. And if you want to send a little message along with it, congratulations or say nothing, you can add it there.
All right, so let me make sure I understand this. We get our phone, we go to the text service, we type in 41444, $, amount, your name. Is that it?
That's it. And I forgot to mention that people joining us via YouTube on the internet, just follow the directions, the same directions for you. So,
All right.
check the thermometer. We've got a thermometer up there now, and
Exactly.
we are already doing great.
Awesome. That's
This is
fantastic.
fantastic. The more we can raise, the bigger the difference that the Inner City Law Center can make in the lives of the clients throughout the downtown Los Angeles and Los Angeles area. We're going to keep checking in on the thermometer for the rest of today's presentation.
All right, please don't stop texting. And while you're doing that, it's our pleasure to present our 2022 Katherine Krause Award.
So Katherine Krause, I looked her up on the internet. She's an amazing woman. Was on the Inner City Law Center board and was a very early leader in the public interest law community in Los Angeles. Every year, ICLC presents an award to an individual or firm that has made a notable contribution to our client community.
This year, we are pleased to be honoring the law firm of Alston and Bird for the extensive pro bono work that they have done on behalf of Inner City Law Center's clients. Here to present the award is ICLC client Claudia Macias, with the assistance of ICLC paralegal Jessica Hernandez.
Buenas tardes. Me complace compartir la historia de cómo los abogados de Alston en Bird nos ayudaron a mí y a mi familia y presentarles el premio Katherine Krause del 2022.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to share the story of how the attorneys at Alston and Bird helped me and my family, and to present them with the 2022 Katherine Krause Award.
Mi esposo, mi pequeño hijo, que tenía 2 años en ese momento, y mi bebé pequeño estábamos rentando un pequeño lugar. Era solo un garage convertido y el dueño aún estacionaba su auto junto a nosotros, separados solo por una pared de madera, pero era todo lo que podíamos pagar.
My husband, my little son, who was 2 years at the time, and my little girl, who was a toddler, were renting a small place. It was a converted garage, and the owner still parked his car next to us. Separated only by a plywood wall, it was all we could afford.
Era un lugar horrible, había grandes agujeros en las paredes, estaba un lugar infestado de cucarachas y ratas, había fugas de aguas negras del apartamento de arriba y había mucho moho. Nos quejamos al dueño, pero nada cambió.
It was a horrible place. There were big holes in the walls. The place was infested with cockroaches and rats. There was sewage leaking from above, and there was mold. We complained multiple times to the owner about the conditions, but he did not comply.
El dueño no era una buena persona y se negó a hacer las reparaciones varias veces e incluso se volvió verbalmente abusivo cuando nos quejamos de las condiciones. pero no teníamos a dónde ir.
The owner was not a nice person and refused to make the repairs, and he became verbally abusive when we complained about the conditions of the unit, but we had nowhere to go.
Entonces el propietario nos dio un aviso de desalojo. No queríamos quedarnos sin hogar y no queríamos que nuestros hijos se quedaran sin hogar, así que llamamos al Inner City Law Center. Con ellos ganamos el juicio y nos sentimos muy aliviados, pero entonces el propietario presentó una apelación.
Then the landlord gave us an eviction notice. We didn't want to be homeless. We didn't want our children to be homeless. So we called Inner City Law Center. With them, we won the trial and felt very relieved. But then the owner filed an appeal.
Ahí es cuando se involucran Greg Berlin y Kathy Wan de Alston and Bird.
That's when Greg Berlin and Kathy Wong of Alston and Bird got involved.
Fueron a la corte por nosotros. No soy abogado, pero tengo entendido que argumentaron que no podíamos ser desalojados de una unidad ilegal. Esto sentó un precedente legal y el caso fue publicado. Entiendo que esto es importante para los abogados, pero más para mí. Lo importante es que no fuimos desalojados. De hecho, recibimos un acuerdo para mudarnos y ahora vivimos en un lugar mucho mejor.
They went to court for us. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand that they argued that we could not be evicted from an illegal unit. This set a legal precedent, and the case was published. I understand that this is important for the lawyers, but for me, the important thing was that we were not evicted. In fact, we were given a move-out agreement, and now we live in a better place.
Gracias Greg y Kathy, y gracias Inner City Law Center, y gracias Alston and Bird. Es un honor para mí presentar el premio Katherine Krause 2022 a Greg Berlin y Kathy Wan de Alston and Bird.
Thank you, Greg and Kathy. Thank you, Inner City Law Center. And thank you, Alston and Bird. It is my honor to present the 2022 Katherine Krause Award to Greg Berlin and Kathy Wong of Alston and Bird.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kathy Huang, and I'm the pro bono chair for the Los Angeles office of Alston and Bird. Alston and Bird has a long history of providing free legal services for those in need and of championing the rights of those underrepresented. We are so pleased to be able to partner with Inner City Law Center to be able to provide those services. Greg Berlin, my colleague, will say a few words today as he was instrumental in this victory and in handling other cases for Inner City Law Center.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to accept the Katherine Krause Award on behalf of Alston and Bird. Today is an opportunity for me to provide you with some background on one particular pro bono case that we handled for the Inner City Law Center. In March 2020, I received an email from the Inner City Law Center with a pro bono opportunity. The email stated that Inner City Law Center represented tenants facing eviction and that they were seeking pro bono representation in an appeal. As an associate, the opportunity presented by arguing an appeal immediately grabbed my attention. The factual background of the case is somewhat long and complex. It involved a landlord who made numerous attempts to unlawfully evict his tenants from a garage unit that he illegally converted into a dwelling space. The Los Angeles Housing Department inspected the unit on 2 separate occasions. On the first occasion, the department discovered numerous code violations, including defective smoke detectors, inoperable doors, cracked windows and glass, and rodent infestation. According to the housing department, these conditions, quote, affected the health and safety of the occupants. In addition, under the Los Angeles Rent Stabilization Ordinance, or LARSO, the landlord was required to obtain a certificate of occupancy from the city before accepting and demanding rent from the tenants. But the housing department found that the landlord failed to secure the certificate for the illegal unit. The housing department directed the landlord to eliminate all substandard conditions and obtain required permits and inspection approvals. 2 months later, when the housing department re-inspected the building, it found that the landlord still failed to remedy any of the violations. The building department assigned a high violation severity level for the illegal construction because it could, quote, include structural hazards with life-threatening conditions that compromise the integrity of the building and, if uncorrected, pose a significant risk of harm, injury, or death to residents of the building. On the very same day that the building department re-inspected the unit, the landlord served an eviction notice for the alleged non-payment of rent and proceeded to file an unlawful detainer action. Inner City Law Center would later resolve the unlawful detainer action in a motion for judgment on the pleadings. In response, the landlord filed another eviction notice. This time, the notice was based on alleged breach of covenants and modifications to the unit. The landlord then filed his second unlawful detainer action. In response, Inner City Law Center filed a motion for summary judgment on the grounds that the landlord's failure to secure a registration statement for the unit provided a complete affirmative defense to the unlawful detainer action, and the lease was illegal and could not be enforced. Inner City Law Center won the motion for summary judgment, and the landlord appealed. On appeal, the landlord argued that the tenants did not have an affirmative defense because the unlawful detainer was not based on the failure to pay rent. There was no case law on point. Inner City Law Center contacted their panel of pro bono firms to represent the tenants in the appeal. I thought the case presented a rare opportunity to stop an unlawful eviction while making precedent. I emailed Kathy Wong, pro bono chair at Alston and Bird's Los Angeles office, stating that this looked like an exciting opportunity, and because there was no case law on point, it was a good opportunity to make precedent for tenants. Little did I know that is exactly what we would end up accomplishing. Over the course of the next month, I would spend weekends and late nights researching and drafting the brief to file in the Court of Appeal. As an environmental litigator who represents energy companies and real estate developers, I had zero experience litigating landlord-tenant disputes. What's more, I was the only attorney drafting the brief. There was no partner checking over my work. I was alone. But I was encouraged by the merits of the case and the prospect of achieving justice for clients who were facing eviction during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Later that year, I argued before the Court of Appeal. The court subsequently issued an opinion affirming the trial court's judgment in its entirety and awarded costs on appeal. In so doing, the Court of Appeal held that a landlord's failure to secure a certificate of occupancy provides a complete affirmative defense to an unlawful detainer action, even when the action is not based on the tenant's failure to pay rent. I subsequently drafted a request for publication of the opinion and worked with the Inner City Law Center attorneys to garner support. Inner City Law Center had 20 different organizations sign on to the request for publication, including the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, Mental Health Advocacy Services, Public Counsel, Tenants Together, California Women's Law Center, and the Western Center on Law and Poverty. The Court of Appeal published its decision. It is citable precedent. The appeal that Alston and Bird handled for Inner City Law Center demonstrates the benefit of engaging in pro bono work. It blesses those who provide it and those who receive it. For me, as an associate, it gave me the opportunity to brief and argue an appeal before the Court of Appeal and obtain a published decision, a task that may have been unlikely in a billable matter. But more importantly, it gave me tremendous satisfaction to solve a problem for tenants on the brink of eviction. I encourage attorneys, and especially young lawyers, to partner with Inner City Law Center in a pro bono capacity to fight for decent housing. You will create tremendous opportunities for yourself to grow as an attorney. You will not only help the vulnerable, you will also improve the administration of justice. And with homelessness visibly on the rise, our work is needed now more than ever. Now, I'll wrap up with a quote from the late Justice Brennan, who in 1986 observed, quote, "We do not yet have justice, equal and practical, for the poor, for the members of minority groups, for the criminally accused, for the displaced persons of the technological revolution, for alienated youth, for the urban masses, for the unrepresented consumer. for all, in short, who do not partake in the abundance of American life. The goal of universal equality, freedom, and prosperity is far from won, and ugly inequities continue to mar the face of our nation. We are surely nearer the beginning than the end of the struggle. Now, I wish I could say that over 35 years later, since Justin Brennan made that quote, that we are a lot closer to the end of the struggle, but we are not. We still have a long way to go. So while I'm very pleased that Alston and Byrd has received this honor today, we look at this award not as a symbol of what we have accomplished, but as a reminder of all the challenges we still need to meet. Thank you.
So thank you and congratulations to Greg and Kathy and everybody at Alston and Byrd for your wonderful work. Last year, 2021, volunteers at Inner City Law Center donated over 15,000 hours of services, valued at over $6 million. And that's in addition to the work that staff do day in and day out. Many of you who are here today have volunteered with us over the years. So I'd like to take a moment and ask if you've ever worked on an Inner City Law Center case, if you could just stand so that we could thank you. The work that you do supports and supplements the work that Inner City Law Center staff do day in and day out. Inner City Law Center staff are an amazing group of men and women who are dedicating their careers to fighting for our clients, fighting for housing, fighting for justice. We don't have lots of our staff here today, but we do have some with us here in the room, and I'd like to ask if you're here today and on staff at Inner City Law Center, if you could please rise so that we can thank you as well. It's a privilege and an honor for me to get to work with you, so thank you for everything that you do day in and day out. I'd like to maybe take a quick moment, if we can show the thermometer up on the screen and see how we're doing, just to inspire people to keep going. Wonderful. So I just received a text as I was sitting there from one of our board members who can't be here today. Sharon Oxborough has pledged another $5,000, so we'll add that to the total. And what this really means to me as a CEO is that we didn't set our goal high enough if we've already hit our goal this early in the event. So please, every dollar that you contribute to Inner City Law Center truly does translate into services for clients. So please keep those contributions coming. I do want to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about the work of Inner City Law Center. I know you will see some of the stories on the videos, but I want to say a couple words and share a couple of details about some recent cases and recent clients. Inner City Law Center staff every day asks the questions that need to be asked to either prevent homelessness or end homelessness for our clients. And at root, the fundamental question that needs to be asked is, what is the pathway to long-term stable housing? What does that look like? That's the question we ask for each of our clients. That's the question that we ask on a community-wide level with our policy advocacy. So just yesterday, for example, I was in the office and I heard about a recent client, somebody who was referred to us from one of our partners, the People Concern, a woman who is living in emergency housing. She's elderly, she's disabled. Her pathway to long-term stable housing requires a Section 8 voucher. And she was unable to get a Section 8 voucher because the name on her birth certificate did not match the name on her Social Security card. So for this woman, the pathway was Inner City Law Center petitioning the court to change the name on her birth certificate. After we did that and were successful, we drove her down to the DMV. She was able to get a California ID. And that, in conjunction with her Social Security card, means, now in the same name, means that she now has a Section 8 voucher and is on her pathway to long-term stable housing. Another case that I'll share is a case from about a month or so ago where a gentleman came to us because he was being evicted by his landlord for having a washing machine in his unit. Now, the landlord correctly noted to the court that the lease said that he could not have a washing machine in the unit. What she neglected to mention is that when he moved in 12 years ago, the washing machine was there, the landlord knew it was there, and it was the same washing machine 12 years later. So for this for this gentleman, the pathway to long-term stable housing looked like a 3-day jury trial, where evidence was put on about from the prior occupant of that unit who testified the washing machine was there when they moved out and that the landlord knew it, from the gentleman who helped him move into his apartment 12 years ago who also testified it was there. And after a 3-day trial, the jury agreed. And so this gentleman, I'm pleased to say, remains stably housed in his apartment, and I'm pleased to say his washing machine also remains with him. So, these are examples of the work that Inner City Law Center does and sort of, how we think about the work. What is the pathway for our clients? What do our clients tell us they need? What are the barriers to them having stable housing, either retaining stable housing or moving into stable housing? A lot of the times that involves connecting them with various public benefits, VA benefits, Social Security disability benefits, something that might allow them to pay rent. Other times it involves helping them directly with some sort of housing issue. We also, though, do this work, as I mentioned, on a community-wide level and on a policy-wide level as well. And it's the same basic question. What are the barriers to long-term housing stability, and what can we do to remove those? So 2 of the things that are absolutely essential and that we need much, much more of if we are going to end homelessness across our city and across our county are much more affordable housing and more of it affordable, and a lot more focus on preventing homelessness before it happens. How do we intervene and bolster families and individuals who are very precariously housed so that they can remain in that housing and not end up on the streets in the shelters? For those of you who live in the city of LA, you have a great opportunity on the ballot in November to support an initiative called the United to House LA initiative that would put substantial resources into both of those things in the city of LA. So for those of you who live and vote in the city of LA, I encourage you to check that out and hopefully support that initiative in November. Your support for Inner City Law Center, both the wonderful support today and more generally, has enabled the organization to grow and serve far more clients than we ever have in the past. Since we last gathered here in person in 2019, the budget of Inner City Law Center has almost doubled. We've grown in staff from 76 staff members to 120 staff members. We have over 65 attorneys now on staff. And each one of the people who works for Inner City Law Center and each one of you who volunteers enables us to serve more clients and enables us to create more of those pathways to long-term stable housing. So thank you for all you do to support the work of Inner City Law Center. We're going to hear next from the amazing president of our board, Janet Combs. So I'm going to ask Janet to come up and take the podium here. And as she is working her way up here, we're going to hear from another client of Inner City Law Centers.
The Herrera family lives in Boyle Heights. They live in a 2-story, 12-unit building. The tenants organized themselves and they contacted Inner City Law Center around February of 2018.
With the plumbing, we had a situation in the restroom where sometimes it was either the tub or the sink or the toilet that wouldn't flush, the water wouldn't go down. Sometimes it would come back up and it was super dirty.
Se estaba liqueando el agua de la tina de aquí arriba. Y pienso yo que el vecino reportó eso, ¿verdad? Pero no venían a arreglar. Entonces, un día en la noche y se oyó un ruidazo, ¿verdad? Entonces nosotros salimos y la señora dijo que el techo se le había caído y llamaron a los bomberos. Llegaron los bomberos. Ella comentó que su niño se estaba bañando.
These clients were living in uninhabitable conditions. There was cockroaches, there was rodents. There was a huge plumbing issue with not only each individual unit, but with the whole apartment complex.
Mi hija se estresaba mucho al ver la tina llena de agua y que no había posibilidad de bañarse o para estar sacando el agua y tirarla en la taza del baño. Y la verdad, pues yo no sabría yo a dónde me iría con mis hijos.
A lot of our clients are undocumented, monolingual Spanish-speaking clients, and they don't know their rights. And being represented by Inner City Law Center is a game changer for them. Working with the Herrera family and other tenants living in the same conditions is very important to me. I grew up 2 blocks away from where the building is at, and I also lived in slum housing conditions.
Inner Law Center, estoy muy agradecida con ustedes por toda la ayuda que nos brindaron. Gracias a Dios y que nos sigan ayudando, así como nos ayudaron a nosotros, que ayuden a más familias que lo necesitan.
Stories of hope. Good afternoon. I must say you all look really good in living color. It's great to see everyone in person here today. What a blessing that we can be here today to celebrate the work of Inner City Law Center and the work of our honorees. Inner City Law Center serves the most vulnerable members of our community, and it does so with a core guiding value that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And that core value was more important than ever over the last 2 years, when the needs of our clients were exploding at the same time that our ability to meet them where they were at, to serve them, became ever more challenging. But Inner City Law Center not only survived, but it thrived and it grew its services where they were needed. And so I'm so grateful for the resiliency of this organization. And we're so grateful for you all. You make the work of Inner City Law Center possible. To our board, our donors, our pro bono volunteers, you are essential. Thank you for your compassion, your generosity, for all of the contributions that you make. And to Inner City Law Center's talented staff, as Adam said, you've dedicated your lives to fighting homelessness, and you deliver so much and fight so vigorously to achieve justice for our clients. Thank you for everything you do every day. I want to give a round of applause again to the staff. We know that legal representation makes a difference in people's lives. We see it every day in our work. The chances that a tenant facing eviction will be successful quadruple with legal representation. And so Inner City Law Center ensures that tenants can stay housed and not forced out onto the street. The odds of someone navigating the bureaucracy to apply for disability benefits increases dramatically with legal representation. And so Inner City Law Center ensures that veterans and others living with disabilities get the benefits that they desperately need to have and be able to afford a home of their own. Inner City Law Center's representation ensures that people with unpaid tickets, old citations, problems with their credit, or other legal issues standing in the way of housing have someone at their side fighting for them. And that's what you make possible. Now, if you are in a position to give today and you haven't yet already, and thank you for your generosity so far, please know that your gifts go to serving clients like those stories that you've heard about today. Now, please join me in welcoming Tom Bagamani, Gina Krause-Vilmar, and Landea Jose, who are going to present ICLC's 2022 Humanitarian Award to Alia and Dr. Gary Michelson.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the thousands that we serve and the thousands that serve with us, thank you for allowing us to join you in honoring the Michelsons and found animals today. The Giving Spirit was founded in 1999 on two fundamental principles that remain today. First, to provide direct, life-sustaining survival assistance to the poorest of the poor of our neighbors living on the streets of Los Angeles. We call it giving them the needs so they can survive where they stand. Secondly, to provide truth-based learning through our street outreach and educational programming, piercing the veil of the unhoused, to reveal the tragic impact of poverty on the most vulnerable. Homelessness is just the tip of the spear, visible proof of the inequalities that drive our neighbors to the streets and challenge our society. In 2016, Found Animals became the foundation partner of our then nascent companion animal program. Their belief in our work allowed us to build and directly serve thousands of unhoused pets and their owners with our robust companion animal kits, full of dozens of items to not only sustain life, but to provide comfort, joy, and access, yes, to a shelter. As often, it is the lack of a leash that stands in the way of a bed. Found Animals grants have also allowed us to tell powerful stories through our curated video content to further validate the power of the human-animal bond, simultaneously keeping two lives alive by providing hope, love, and understanding. Research and our own experiences witness the beneficial and the dynamic relationship between us and animals that extends the health and well-being of each companion. Their mutual love and sense of belonging gives each of them purpose and a reason to persevere and keep each other alive. Found Animals' model of directly serving the pets and families of Los Angeles while educating alongside and championing many community-based organizations like ourselves is far-reaching. From its Better Neighbor project, providing access to zero-cost veterinary care for families experiencing income insecurity, to keeping pets out of municipal animal shelters and free from euthanasia, their impact is undeniable. As we reach bigger universes of unsheltered companions, Found Animals continues to support our efforts for the emotional and psychological well-being of the most vulnerable populations while keeping families intact to save lives. And as this work is just one example of the impact of the Michelsons' gracious philanthropy on those we serve and for those that serve alongside us. As the Giving Spirit expands our outreach and educational programming to serve the unique needs and lives of the poorest women and young girls and the tens of thousands of resilient LAUSD homeless students, we are excited about the possibilities to further collaborate on behalf of those who need it most. Whether you have 4 legs or 2 legs, the core commitment that embodies all the efforts of Alia and Gary in building a legacy of both direct compassionate care and generational impact will sustain and extend to all who are fortunate to be touched by their innovation, compassion, humanity, and abundant generosity. Thank you, ICLC, for this opportunity, and blessings and tremendous gratitude to you, Alia and Gary.
My name is Gina Krause-Vilmar, the CEO of Upwardly Global, an organization that eliminates barriers to support immigrant and refugees to secure professional jobs. And I am thrilled to celebrate Alia and Michelson philanthropies with you today. Alia is a unique kind of philanthropist because she not only invests in the most vulnerable including immigrant and refugee women, but she is also a fearless and tireless advocate, pushing for greater investment in these women. A word I would not associate with Alia is shy. In a room with business leaders, philanthropists, and influencers, she carries all of our voices with her and sings loud and true as she advocates for our issues. We need that, and we need you, Alia, especially when only 1.6% of charitable giving goes to support women and girls, and where immigrant women are not on that very small map. You have led. Your first generation initiative that we have partnered on unleashes women's potential, and therefore their families, their communities, and their economies. We've done this together by offering immigrant women a hand up to secure professional careers. And as we see this at a time when we see the Ukrainian crisis unfold, where LA is to be one of the largest receiving cities of Ukrainian refugees, most of whom are women and children, the care, the investment, and the commitment that you have made to local communities in LA makes their welcome and their inclusion that much more possible. I'm sorry that I can't celebrate with you all this afternoon, and I'm so grateful to share a little bit about my friend, Alia Michelson.
That was the extraordinary Gina Krause-Vilmar, the president and CEO of Upwardly Global. Good afternoon. I think I'm almost the last speaker, and I don't know how I got to have such an esteemed role in this affair, but my name is Londe Ajose. I am currently the Vice President and Senior Fellow at the Public Policy Institute of California, and prior to that role, I served in the governor's office, where I was Governor Newsom's higher education policy advisor. And that was the opportunity that provided me with the good fortune to get to know Gary Michelson, Alia, and the entire team of the various Michelson philanthropies and foundations and organizations. And I am honored, truly honored, to be able to talk about what was described as the tip of the spear, the other end of the spear, because the spear is long. You've heard a lot about already what the Michelsons have done, and I'm here to tell you about what they've done from the perspective of education. During my time in the governor's office, the Michelsons and the 20MM Foundation were strong partners to ensure that students, all students, but particularly those from historically underinvested backgrounds, had support to be successful in their higher education journey. That journey certainly started before the pandemic, but was immensely more difficult during the pandemic, when the administration faced the daunting task of ensuring that all students in this state had access to devices and Wi-Fi in order to pursue their educational aspirations. The Michelson 20MM Foundation was a fierce ally in lifting up what needed to happen in order for students to stay in school, and help to partner with the state and organize the field in order to ensure that students got the devices that they need and the access that they deserved. But their commitment did not stop there. The foundation has also been a leader when it comes to the issue of textbook affordability. Dr. Michelson is an early champion of open educational resources to eliminate the cost of textbooks, which my former boss described as a racket, prompting many a phone call to me after that particular press conference. In 2021, Dr. Michelson's passionate advocacy helped convince Governor Newsom to make a historic $115 million investment in the Zero Textbook Cost Degrees program for the California Community College system. That investment alone has the potential to create over 500 zero textbook cost degree pathways that will save students not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars over time. But the Michelsons have also focused on bringing education to others who are often forgotten. The Michelson Smart Justice Initiative invests in programming, policies, and system change initiatives that strengthen higher education in prison, on-campus supports for those justice-involved students, and pathways to economic success, providing the momentum for state policies to ensure that programs are offered to incarcerated students through accredited public and nonprofit colleges and universities. This work will benefit more than 14,000 students, incarcerated men and women, who are enrolled in colleges in 35 prisons in this state. And this year, Dr. Michelson and his foundations are continuing the push, bringing new ideas and, in fact, legislation forward to help vulnerable student parents. This support is sorely needed. As you may or may not know, student parents are more likely than non-parents to be people of color, women, low income, less than the age of 30, and first-generation students, adding layer upon layer of obstacles to their degree completion. In California alone, 20% of all undergraduates, or nearly 500,000 students, are parents. 28% of single mothers graduate with a degree or certificate within 6 years of enrollment, and another 55% leave school before earning an actual college credential. And even prior to the pandemic, nearly 70% of student parents reported that they were housing insecure. These are but a few of the efforts, but a part of the spear that the Michelsons are taking on to support California students. What I appreciate most is that Gary Michelson does not sit on the sidelines. He does not wait for others to act. He gets in the arena, he invests his time, his energy, his resources to push for the change that is needed. I've been a personal witness to this passion, this creativity, and the energy that he brings to every encounter, and it makes an enormous difference, particularly when he calls my former boss. Alia and Gary, I'm delighted to join with everyone here to celebrate the tremendous impact that you've had with this year's Humanitarian Award. Congratulations and thank you.
This is heavy. Good afternoon, and Tom, Gina, and Londe, thank you so much for the kind remarks. It's been a great pleasure to work with these people, and while my wife and I are honored by this, the award really goes to the people who work for us. There are many people in our various philanthropies, and every one of them has in common that they're there because they're personally passionate about the work that they're doing. And so the award really goes to them. A gentleman named Sterling Bennell famously said one day that to those who have nothing, a little is a lot. And what our organizations and the Law Center have in common is that we're both trying to help the people that have so very little, and to make life just a little bit less unfair. Life is not fair, and I think we all recognize that most of the people in this room, including us, we've all been given too much. We got the big side of the chocolate chip cookie. And I think that it makes us feel good if we can do something to actually make life a little bit less unfair for the people who got the short side of that cookie. And finally, I would have to say it's been and is an honor and a great pleasure to be working with the Law Center. Now I give you my wife, Alia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm humbled and honored to share this award with my husband, Gary Michelson. And my work as the co-chair of Michelson Philanthropies and an advocate for female immigrants who are backbone of our communities, but yet discriminated is really just beginning. And in today's reality, in my opinion, to be kind to people around you and respectful is probably one of the most important things. It makes us complete. It makes us rich. Because being rich is not about how much you have, it's about how much you can give. And I'm very honored. Thank you very much. And this recognition gives us courage to keep going and fight for someone who doesn't have a voice. Thank you.
So that makes me want to share some personal information about my wife. So my wife actually is Russian and grew up in Ukraine. So Saturday night as a present, she moved 2 immigrant Ukrainian families who got wiped out into our home.
So thank you and congratulations again, Talia and Gary. You heard about a lot of the breadth of work that they do and things that they are involved with and committed to. All of it important. I will say for Inner City Law Center in particular, it is 3 things. It is the focus on immigrant women that resonates with a lot of our clients and who we serve, the focus on homeless veterans that also connects so deeply with the work that we do. And third, the recognition that people's struggles related to their pets are often tied up in their struggles related to housing stability. And so for many of our clients, you have to tackle those issues if you truly want that pathway to long-term housing stability. So thank you for all that you do, but for those things in particular, because they're so near and dear to Inner City Law Center's heart. Those of you who are longtime guests at this event will remember that one of the things I am deeply dedicated to is getting everybody out of here by 1:30. So that will happen again today. But I do want to, a few things before we go. I want to thank all of you, both those of you joining us online and those of you here in the room. I especially want to thank Debbie Fitchett, Claudia Messias, Alexian Herrera, Guadalupe Martinez, and Keontae West for sharing your stories with us today. Very much appreciated. It enables us to illustrate to our supporters the work that we do. So thank you for doing that. I do want to show, we're going to show one more video in a moment, but first can we throw the thermometer up again just so everybody can feel good about where we are and I can feel good about where we are? So. I have heard from a couple people that some people are having trouble getting cell service, so you are not limited to this opportunity. You are welcome to reach out to me at any time or anybody else at Inner City Law Center. We do need your support, so thank you. Please keep the contributions coming, but this is wonderful and great to see. So one final, well, I'll say one thing and then we'll end after the video. I will say that there will be a table outside that will have a few staff members at it from Inner City Law Center. If you're interested in getting more involved, volunteering on a case or helping out in some other way, I encourage you to check in with them and make sure that they have your name. And then why don't we ask one of our clients we have on video to close it out for us today as well. Thank you.
I went to Florida for a family emergency, and when I came back, I was like completely locked out of my house. I went to the manager's door and I let them know, like, my door's locked, it's not open. And at first she didn't want to talk to me, so I called the police. And then when the police officer opened the door, none of my medications were here, none of my clothes, shoes, TVs, bed. It was literally my whole life was just gone.
He was being accused of non-payment during the period of time when the COVID Tenant Protection Act covered non-payment and basically prevented landlords from evicting anyone on the basis of non-payment.
Before the pandemic, I worked as an EMT and a 911 dispatcher. I found out not that long ago that I had some kidney problems, and that's the reason why I had to resign from work. When COVID happened, it just wasn't safe for me to be showing up to random people's houses with a low immune system already.
That's when I realized that he was sleeping in a sleeping bag in his unit because his landlord had already illegally locked him out twice before and removed everything that he owned. And so that triggered a case that went alongside his unlawful detainer eviction case that I was lead on, that was a criminal case against the landlord and the property managers for burglary that we eventually escalated to the point of getting it filed. And I was able to work very closely with the detective on the case and wrote letters to the prosecutor and tried to forward evidence and put together the inventory lists of things that had been missing because I knew that that was going to be the strongest way to get his money back and the replacement for his belongings.
Without ICLC, I don't know where I would even be right now, because there's no way that I would have been able to afford an attorney.
This wasn't the first time that this landlord had done something like this. She had successfully in the past just moved people out. And I believe wholeheartedly that if Chianti hadn't stood up for himself enough to get somebody in his corner that could advocate on his behalf, if this landlord would have continued to do this.
I don't think I could have asked for a better attorney than Hannah. And I get that it's her job, but it didn't feel like it was just a job for her. It felt like this was a personal issue that she wanted to tackle, and she wanted to make sure that justice was served, and it was. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you to all of you. You do not have to rush out if you're enjoying being in a room with hundreds of other people, which you probably haven't done in a while. You're welcome to hang out for a bit, but that's a wrap for us. Thank you for everything you do to support the work of Inner City Law Center.